My daughter's getting married this week, and as the father of 4 sons and a daughter, this one hits a little bit differently. It's a destination wedding in New York City where she currently resides with her fiance, but we live in the Midwest, so we'll be making the trip out there. Had a lot of time to do reflecting upon what this means in terms of just being a dad and showing up for my daughter, but also it sent me down a path of introspective deep dive. So my daughter has always been a fan of fantasy, of princesses and queens and kings and that type of thing. And so this wedding's actually going to be in the park, near a castle. It's going to have a king and queen and fantasy theme to it. But growing up, we tried to help her indulge that side. So we took trips to places where she might see something like that. And Disneyland was one of those places. And at that stage in her life, she was 4 years old. She really, really loved Belle. Belle was her favorite princess. And we took this trip there to Disney. We walked in. As soon as we got through the door, they sold me the, I don't know, it was like $50 autograph book, which is really just a puffy, nicely covered book with white paper inside. Amazingly high ticket, high profit item. And then we headed over to the area where all the castles were, and to our surprise, Belle was out there signing autographs. We waited in line for, I don't know, maybe half an hour, and as we got close, this young teenager came along in a maroon colored vest and whispered something to Belle, and then Belle waved to the group, and that maroon vested Disney employee turned around and said to the group that she's very sorry that Belle was needed in the Enchanted Forest. At this point, my wife and I braced ourselves for what we thought was going to be a catastrophic 4-year-old meltdown. But to our surprise, our daughter turned around and said they need her in the Enchanted Forest. Belle was needed in the Enchanted Forest, and that moment made her a deeper believer as opposed to being torn. Disney set up their employees for success. They set up their guests for success. No surprise that they've written the legendary customer service book on Be Our Guest, because if the guest is at the center of it all, then you don't just think about how am I going to make somebody mad or not mad. You think about how am I going to, in fact, delight the guest. And nothing builds trust faster than seemingly putting your guest first. So that's my question to you today is, in all of your business interactions, when you think about building trust, are you putting the guest at the center of it all? Or are you putting your team members at the center of it all? Or are you kind of on that third rail where you're putting profits ahead of everything else? At some point, you just have to trust the model and trust that if you take really, really good care of your team, they will take really, really good care of your guests, and that the profit will show up. So I'm going to cover with you really fast 7 behaviors or trust signals that you can send to your team and guests. So number 1 is no surprises. Surprises do not do anyone or anything any good. So being incredibly predictable in your experience for both your team and for your guests and customers is going to win you a lot. Number 2, no complaints. So this doesn't mean that you need to have some closed door policy. It just means that when your team brings you complaints, that they bring them in the form of opportunities with solutions. And when your team hears clients or customers or guests that they have complaints, that they see them as opportunities, not a chance to go gripe about the guests and can you believe this person said this. Number 3, you need to build ridiculous belief. And this builds upon the first 2, but you really have to have everybody bought in to the mission. So they have to understand the deep-rooted whys of everything that you're doing so that they will run through a wall for it. So that it's not just a set of words on a wall, but instead it's actually something that means something to them, that they're connected with it. Nonprofits do an amazing job with this. For-profits could learn from nonprofits in this space. Number 4, math matters. So you need to be able to show somebody how it adds up to a win. Hope is not a strategy. Momentum is awesome, but momentum counts upon that first domino falling. In Gary Keller's great book, The One Thing, he starts off with the analogy that if you have a domino and that domino falls over, it'll actually knock over something twice its size as long as the distance from the first domino is the same. And you can repeat that over and over again. So in a very short period of time, you can go from one little small domino to knocking over an entire door. However, that relies upon math and physics for that to happen, and knocking over the first domino. Number 5, meekness is not weakness. So the opportunity to show your softer side, to be vulnerable, is really, really key. I've shared before that when I was in the hospital, when I was 10, maybe 11 years old, that Mr. T read a letter of mine that talked a little bit about the fact that even though I was almost a teenager, that I still slept with a stuffed animal for comfort, because that helped me to have that stuffed animal with me. His name was Dog. I still have him. He's somewhere around here. He's back there. So meekness is not weakness, because when Mr. T read that letter out loud, the other kids began to start laughing at me, and a tear actually rolled down the side of his face, and he said, "I pity the fool. I pity the fool that laughs at my guy, Mike." And that shut the whole room up. So maybe the toughest, strongest guy in the 1980s was able to be meek, so you can too. Christ is known for his meekness. So some of the greatest and most influential leaders are meek. Don't feel like that you need to rule with an iron fist to be successful. Number 6, never borrow authority. This is a big one. So as soon as you say the company wants, corporate wants, the boss wants, the customer demands, our profits require, you've given up your ability to be the influencer in the future. Do not be so quick to give up influence that is hard-earned and hard-won. And finally, number 7, and probably the most impactful one over time, because this is the one that your team and your customers and your guests will go tell everybody about, is you got to build a dream big enough for everyone to be inside of it. So I had a boss or a mentor one time that he would say, "Hey, I am going to be so successful that I am going to start my own country, buy an island." And that may have sounded audacious, but when I heard it, what I thought was immediately is there's going to be a place where I'm going to have property on the ocean and I'm going to be able to dock my boat. So my question to you is, are you setting up a dream big enough that has your team asking, where will I dock my boat? That has your guests or clients or customers want to be a part of it? Like Savannah Bananas, I think everybody attending those games feels like they're a part of it, and the dream is big enough for them because they're having a blast. Disney does an amazing job of this, but there are some other businesses that are really strictly transactional. And if you have a transactional business and every single time somebody looks at it, they view it transactionally. I trade this amount of money, I get this thing, and the value equation starts over every single time. You don't want to go through that or do that. That's not your quickest path to success. So those are the 7 laws. I'll hit them again really, really fast here for you. But before I do that, remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and comment what your favorite law is. What is your favorite law? No surprise, there's no complaints. Build ridiculously. Math matters. Meekness is not weakness. Never borrow authority, or build a dream big enough for everyone. Which one of those 7 laws is your favorite, and which one are you working on in your business right now? Comment that. Like, this is how I can get more content just like this in front of you, free of charge. See you next time.